Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 192. I want to welcome everybody who is in the chat room. Those are my patrons. Thank you for being here. If you would like to be in the chat room for my live shows, which there are 2 per week, one on the weekend, which is a case show, and one hangout during the week like this, please do click on the link below, join Patreon, support this educational channel, and hang out with us. But if you don't want to do that, don't worry. Once the live shows are over, all of my shows are public. You can just go and subscribe to the channel and check my playlists and hit the bell so you get notified and you see everything for free outside of the advertisements, which don't complain about them. They support this channel too. So I wish there were a better way, but it is what it is. So welcome everybody who I haven't said hello to yet. I think I have said hello to everybody so far. So y'all can hear me today, right? Because we had the audio disaster on Sunday, which was so much fun. So I just want to double check to make sure there's not something sneaky going on here. So anybody before I go on? Yes, you can hear me. Thank you. I appreciate that. You get cauliflowers. Okay, cool. Thank you. Just checking, just because I hadn't had that audio problems for like a couple of years, and all of a sudden it just, nobody could hear me, and there was some weird thing, glitchy thing, and we had to start the whole show over again. So everybody can hear me. All right, except for the deaf people, in which case, so anyway, I signed, but then the rest, you hearing people you'll be in trouble. All right, so let me start with, a lot of times you ask me about my feral cat, Mac. He's just been normal this week. He's been coming into my room and he licks the food off my hand and steps in my lap and eats his food, gives me a look and leaves. The only thing I'm doing different with him now is I'm looking at him, because normally if y'all look at him, he hisses. So I do some squinty eye stuff, and then I open my eyes and I try to look at him more so he gets used to me looking at him. And it seems to be working. So that's my newest attempt at deferalizing my cat. Anyway, but Mac, yes, Mac. So anyway, I'm not going to give you any more show anything more about Mac, but I will give you this is a great story. The great animal story of the week, which is also a criminal story. So this one, so freaking funny. So anyway, so in Ohio, an officer in Ohio made a traffic stop that would lead to a shocking discovery. So the woman's name was Victoria Vidal. She's 55 years old. She was arrested in Springfield Township near Akron. And the traffic stop led the police to discovering she was driving with an active warrant and a suspended license. So they took her out of the vehicle. They arrested her, put the cuffs on her, put her in the police vehicle. And then they returned to her vehicle. And this is what they saw. So now her raccoon was taking a hit off of her crack pipe. I mean, her meth pipe. It's her meth pipe. And they're like, what the heck? So now they're trying to remove the meth pipe from the raccoon's mouth, and the woman is actually going, oh, let me help. He's like, no, you can't touch the evidence. We have to save the raccoon from the meth. And why is the raccoon hitting up on a meth pipe? But anyway, they also went back to the woman and they said this, well, your raccoon gave you away. So I guess when they first stopped, they didn't see the raccoon or the meth pipe. But while they were getting things done, the raccoon was running around the vehicle and got a hold of the meth pipe. It's just a great story. Oh my God. Yeah, I've seen it. It's great. She actually had a permit to have the raccoon. So the raccoon was a cared for pet raccoon, except apparently, I guess it did drugs with her. I don't know. But she didn't really want the raccoon to have the meth pipe. So maybe when she's in the car with the raccoon, she makes sure the raccoon doesn't get drugged up, but only her. Oh my God. Perhaps. Oh my God. I just, Yeah, like you see, like true, like you've seen everything. The cops, it's a funny video. So if I remember, I'll link the video below because it's just so funny. The cops are like, "Is that a raccoon?" Not a meth pipe. They're all like, so they had a story to bring home. So I thought that was a pretty funny one. Okay, so that's a funny one of the week, and everything else is crime, regular crime. Anyway, I just did. If you haven't seen it yet, I just did. The Sun did a what I called a crockumentary on Madeleine McCann, the unseen evidence. Well, it's unseen because the evidence doesn't even exist that they're talking about. And they have this new evidence that shows how Christian Bruckner clearly was the kidnapper and murderer of Maddie McCann. It's a bunch of rot, absolute bunch of rot. So here I have, I'll link it below, the Sun's new Madeleine McCann crockumentary. Yes, so short video, but check it out, and don't waste your time checking out the Sun's garbage that they put out. It was absolutely awful. I mean, it was awful and stupid and full of lies and deceptive stuff, and it just nonsense. If you really want to understand the case, click on this link below, Profile of the Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. That is, I read my book. It's 2 hours. I read the entire book, so it's free to you. And you can also, if you don't like listening to things audio, you can go to any place but Amazon that sells books, and you'll find the book. It's $2.99, wherever it's at. So get the real information, okay, and not stuff from that ridiculous nonsense. Just love your choice of words, Pat. Crockumentary. They came to me without even hardly thinking, because that's what it was. I'm thinking, this is a crock of, it's a crockumentary. So, absolutely nuts. Chesterfin says, hi, Chesterfin. Hope Raccoon never did drugs like your kids doing drugs with you. Well, at least, generally speaking, the raccoon wouldn't rat you out, except in this case, he actually did rat her out. So, hi, Lex. Glad you're here. I'm trying to think what you're talking about here. I'm looking at a comment. I'm not quite understanding it. There's always stupid people commenting on things. So if you're commenting about stupid people commenting, well, there's lots of those. I get them all the time. So that's it. Go check out my video on that. And see what I have to say. And it's 15 minutes, and it'll save you 45 more minutes of torture. Now, oh Lord, got to talk a little bit about Virginia. I can never pronounce this woman's name. Giuffre, and this is the Epstein victim who committed suicide last week. Was it now? Last week. Anyway, I did talk about that, and I'd say 90% of the comments in return were, you're wrong, she was murdered. People are obsessed with the fact that since she ratted out Epstein, that somehow they finally got to her. And 6 years ago, she said, hey, if I end up dead, I didn't do it. But that was 6 years ago when things were, the storm had hit, and now nobody's paying attention to her at this point. Epstein's dead, and what's her face is in prison. Ghislaine Maxwell, she's in prison, and sure, could Virginia possibly have some more things to say? Yes, but it's been many, many years, and she was going through stuff, and she had issues. She's had issues all of her life. But these people are all over the place saying she was murdered, she was murdered, she was murdered. And that's what fuels the internet. And of course, all the grifters out there jump on that because they'll get 10 times the clicks I do for saying she was murdered. So that's what they do. And then, so family believes someone got to her. And who's saying that crap? Well, Daddy. I know he's on Piers Morgan. Okay, Piers Morgan, you didn't need to have this idiot on there, but you did. And so I'm concerned about the fact that you choose certain people to be on your show, again, for clicks rather than that they have anything useful to say. She was murdered. Okay, first of all, Daddy, you screwed her whole life up. As far as I can see, you were a horrible father. She was abused when she was young. She ran away. You're kind of worthless. And now you're going to cash in or get your 5 minutes of fame. So that's what you're doing. So it says here that the frustrated father slammed the late Epstein and Andrew as men who abused their wealth and power to hurt his daughter and threatened her to keep her silent. Yeah, okay. But however, the rest of Giuffre's family maintains that her death was a suicide, noting her life began to unravel in recent months following the end of her 22-year marriage to Robert Giuffre. The divorce led to a bitter custody battle over the couple's 3 children, with Giuffre unable to gain access to her kids in months due to her estranged husband's restraining order. Her own family thinks she took her own life. And no, there has not been a cause of death yet. And all the media outlets say her cause of death was suicide. No, that's not a cause of death. Cause of death is what physically did you in. A manner of death is how it happened. So a cause of death has never been brought forth. And of course, a lot of people, that makes people suspicious. How long it's going to take them to come forward with the cause of death, I would like to know what the autopsy has to say, just because people keep saying, So in other words, if there's no sign of violence, no sign of foul play, if she took an overdose, if she took her life by hanging, then it's pretty obvious that it is exactly the manner of death they say it is. But people think, oh my God, they haven't come forward with that yet, so they must be hiding something. Everybody always thinks they're going to be hiding something. As if the police in Australia and the medical examiner in Australia are going to hide something. So not only are somebody going to come and kill Victoria, they're going to get to everybody there, the EMTs, everybody, and somehow keep them from opening their big mouths. This is the kind of stupid stuff that just drives me crazy with these conspiracy theories. And I'm one of these people that says, there are conspiracies. I'm not going to deny that there are times when there is something really amiss about something. And perhaps there are a number of players involved. I won't forever say, there's no such thing. No. And I do believe there's corruption. And I've said so in certain cases, that I do believe there's corruption. However, the majority of time, it is not true. And it, especially the more people you have involved, the more likely it's not going to be true. The Karen Reed case is an example of the idiots out there who, and Turtle Creep and his little spawn, they're just like, they're harassing the witnesses. They're harassing everybody, and they're claiming that everybody and their brothers involved in this huge, massive cover-up. I mean, they have, I don't know how many people they got, like 3 dozen people involved in a cover-up. That isn't really very important. You know what I mean? And in all reality, it's not something you need 30 people to cover up. And the claim that, a police officer, if he were involved in something, every other police officer will cover up for that police officer is nonsense. Because I know a lot of people in the police department, including my own daughter, and she's not going to cover up murder for somebody. There's no way in heck she's going to do that kind of crap. And so the more people get involved, the less likely it is to be that kind of a conspiracy to that extent. So this whole thing is nonsensical. Her own family thinks she's just had severe emotional problems. She's had them all her life. Virginia suffered from abuse. She ran away. She got involved in prostitution. She became a prostitute for some really creepy dude at a fairly young age. So she went through a lot with that guy. And then she hooked up with Epstein. And I say hooked up. He helped, she was lured. This is true. She went in there and they offered her, oh, look, she's doing this. Oh, we'll offer you a better deal. She went over to give this massage. And during that time, she was lured with money. Hey, she'd already been a prostitute. People keep not understanding this. They think that she was forced to be involved in sex at that point. She was not. She unfortunately when she ran away, which is what happens to a lot of young girls who run away, and boys, is that they have no way to survive. So they get involved in prostitution. There's always some guy out there who will lure them in. And I say lure because I'll say, hey, look, you can't survive on the street. Come, I'll give you a place to stay. And here's what you got to do for me. You got to sleep with this guy, and I'll get money, and I'll give you some of that money. And so they go along with the program. they're usually not in prison. They theoretically could just say, hey, I'm not going to do this. But because they're in dire straits, people, when they're desperate, will do whatever they have to do to survive. So she did that. And then by the time Epstein came along, now she's not, she can get away from the creepy dude, the really creepy dude. Epstein too is creepy, but the creepier dude, who the sex was more sleazy, if you can believe that, to better sex. In other words, safer perhaps, higher paid, and then offer that, you're going to get to travel the world and go to these glamorous places. And you're like, hey, basically, if she were older, people would call her an escort. If she had been absolutely above the age of 18 when this started, people would say she has the right to choose what she wants to do. Women think it's empowering for her to be able to have sex with men and get money from them. But somehow, because she was a few months younger, now she is 100% a victim, and it's horrifying. So it's a weird thing that people have, and I'm not saying it's right. I don't believe it's right for any of the women to be involved in this, and I think it's really sad that a lot of women do get into this line of work because it's in a weird way attractive, and it's very hard to get back out of because the money is so good for women who are at that level, not street women. They're usually there because of drugs and other unfortunate circumstances, and their lives are pretty freaking miserable. But there's people at a higher level who get involved in prostitution who the money is good, and then the concept of not flying on private jets and going to fancy restaurants and going back home and working at Baskin Robbins is not real thrilling, especially if you haven't found that all of the sex is that bad. And people always imagine every time they have sex, it's like the most horrifying thing in the world. Look, there's a lot of girls out there having sex with guys for no more reason than it's the end of a date, or they hope it'll be a relationship. And some of that sex sucks. You know what I mean? So it's no good. But here you have a girl who's making, not only is maybe the sex isn't great, but she's getting $500 or $1,000 a night for it. Better than getting nothing. So it's a very complicated world that people do not understand. And but she obviously had issues from the time she was a child, when abuse really did happen to her as a child. And then that caused her to run away. That caused her to get involved in prostitution and lure, and then manipulated, whatever you want to call it. And she was brave enough finally to come forward and take out Epstein, essentially. And that's amazing. And she became wealthy because of it as well. And she found this guy in Thailand. I mean, she went to Thailand on Epstein's, sent her to Thailand to get some massage stuff. And she hooked up with this guy and married him really like within months. So she has a lot of emotional issues in her life. And then she had what seemed like a relatively, finally, she had a home and children and all that. And in the last number of months, she lost that, and all hell broke loose in her life. And she's midlife crisis age. And I just think it's sad. It's sad. I mean, you hope that the person can overcome all of these things, but apparently she could not. And she decided, no more. And I just think it's, people need to stop doing this nonsense stuff where they want to make it a drama that doesn't exist. It was a drama enough for her. I'll leave her alone. I'll leave her family alone. Anyway, that's my soapbox today. I was looking for my cat. I do have the food down here. My soapbox. Visiting fancy restaurants is bad business. Why? Why would you not want to be a fancy restaurant? What, do you want to be a Burger King? What? Lex says, people believe what they read, but they often don't think about who wrote it. Absolutely. Or where it's published. Absolutely. They share it, and their friends and dumb friends believe it. And it's true. People, especially things in writing, things on YouTube, things that documentaries, whatever the story is about, a lot of times the problem is people don't understand that they're not necessarily getting accuracy and truth, especially even from the experts on the shows, because a lot of the experts on these shows, they're brought on and they're only getting a few sentences. They're not explaining things in depth. And so half the time they're not even saying what they want to say, or they're saying what they think the host of the show wants them to say. And if they don't say what the host of the show wants them to say, they're not going to be on the show, which is why you don't see me on anything about Madeleine McCann. I was booted off of any shows about Madeleine McCann back in, I don't know, back 2008 or 9, some way back when I did Montel Williams. And then that was about it. Once I gave my opinion, I was axed, and that included Nancy Grace, who I was a regular on her show, and she would never have me on when they were talking about Madeleine McCann. And to this day, she's still pushing the abduction theory, which bothers me. And I was not allowed to speak on her show. And only recently on News Nation, they had me on because they forgot to interview me, to do a pre-interview, and I got on the show and said exactly what I thought, and they're all like deer in headlights. Oh my God, she's saying it's not an abduction. They won't invite me back. But anyway. Bloodbath. I believe everything I read, it keeps me young. Well, there you go. It can stimulate your mind. You know what I mean? It can. Kathleen says he failed as a daddy. She was in England with a prince under the age of 18. Where was he? Exactly. Where was he? Oh, he's there. He's here now because he can get on Piers Morgan. Very annoying. Lex says, oh my God, my boyfriend is into conspiracy theories, and 95% of the time I just shake my head. Not everything is a conspiracy. There are some that's probably true. Yes. But most are sensational BS. And it's frustrating because there are times when you question that there is enough evidence that may make you think maybe what we've read through the media or what has been determined is not so. And so I'm not opposed to the theory of a conspiracy. I'm opposed to nonsensical conspiracy theories. There's two different things. And so I'm willing to look at the evidence and say, is there a reason to look further into this? Or are we just having people saying a bunch of nonsense? So that's the thing on Giuffre. I think that's how you pronounce your name. I always have these things that get me, and I cannot pronounce their names. And I'm like, ah. Anyway, let's move on to, oh my God. Oh, Lord. Luigi Mangione. I don't know why I keep wanting to say that with a really bad Italian accent, but it's hard to resist. Luigi Mangione. All right. This article, okay, it's a New York Post, which is always somewhat questionable, but anyway, they're all questionable. But it's what they say. The legal defense fund for Luigi Mangione has reached more than $1 million in donations on Tuesday, with droves of starry-eyed supporters pitching in to help the alleged United Healthcare CEO assassin on his 27th birthday. Oh my God, I forgot to send him a birthday card. Happy 27th birthday to the man, the myth, and the legend. You're so loved. May you stay healthy and strong and keep fighting, keep the fighting spirit inside you. Lord God. I guess that person, the woman who wrote that to him, is probably going to visit him in prison and become his wife. You know what I mean? Have a baby bun. This is my 7th donation, and I will keep donating as long as I need to. You are fighting for your life, but know there is an army behind you. We are not going anywhere. You flaming idiot. The guy is a psychopathic murderer. Even if you don't mind who he murdered because you just pissed off with the healthcare industry, which I don't have an argument with, doesn't mean you support people who are psychopathic murderers. Anyway, let's see a little bit more here. So the crowdfunding campaign on Give, Send, Go fundraising website raked in $1,042,800 as of Tuesday afternoon, with 28,000 contributions averaging $27 in recent weeks. The money will go toward Mangione's defense for his 3 pending legal cases. So lots of fangirls, more women than men, a lot of fangirls protesting because they're protesting the healthcare industry. I have nothing nice to say about the healthcare industry. I am 100% appalled by the healthcare industry. If they can even, let me rephrase that. There is no healthcare industry. It's a corporation that could care less a good portion of time about health. And there are doctors and nurses and EMTs and people within that system struggling to care for people. I'm not against you guys, because we all know sometimes you get stuck in a system. You're trying to do good things, and you're stuck in a really bad system. And they're stuck in a really bad system, which could care less about health. So healthcare is not who they're about. They're not about healthcare. They're about money making, and as cold-bloodedly money making as they can possibly be. So appreciating the supposed motive that Luigi Mangione had in the murdering of a CEO of a major and one of the worst healthcare corporations, I get. However, that doesn't make that Luigi Mangione is no hero, no Robin Hood. He's a psychopath who's getting his rocks off doing something he thinks is cool. It's about him. It's never about you. He doesn't care one bit about you. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He cares about himself. And obviously he considers himself a failure in many, many ways. So this is his way, very similar to mass murder, of getting his day in the sun, to feel good about himself, to think, ha ha to everybody else. You thought I was a nobody, but I proved you wrong. I'm a somebody. Even if I'm bad somebody, I'm a somebody. And look what I did. Cool, huh? And now he's getting applause, and he's getting all the fangirls, and he's getting all this money, and now he's a hero. And so he wins. That's how mass murderers win too, when people make them into heroes. And you could say, well, how could a mass murderer be a hero like Columbine or any of these other horrible creeps that kill all children and students? Because people think they're cool. Enough people who are disturbed. So if you're sending money to Luigi Mangione, you too are disturbed. And if 27,000, how many say 27,000 people? Or is that 27,000? 27,000. How many people sent him money so far? 27. They forked over 27 average. 28,000 contributors. 28,000 people. You all got problems. It's disgusting and despicable. If you want to go against the healthcare industry, do it in every way you can, but not that way, because that's stupid. That's stupid. It's not going to work. I have fought against the healthcare industry quite a lot. And I fought recently when I got the ridiculous, the one thing I checked out, I went to get a EKG just because I had this weird pain in my back. And I'm like, just out of safety, I'll just go down to one of these, emergency places. And, I said, how much will it cost? And they told me, and I'm like, all right, so I'll pay over a couple $100, but whatever. And I just want the EKG. If it says it's normal, I go back home. And so I got the EKG, and it's normal. I figured it probably would be, but just to be safe. And then the doctor says, well, you should go to the hospital because the EKG can be wrong. And of course, I already know that that's what they're going to say, because in his position, he's got to make sure that he says that just in case I go home and have a heart attack, So I was okay with him saying it. I laughed and smiled and said, yeah, I'm not going to the hospital, but thanks for your concern. And I went home, and I was fine until they sent me the bill, which added in $200 extra for high-level medical decision-making. That was his telling me to go to the hospital. $200 for him to tell me to go to the hospital to prevent a lawsuit. So it was a CYA issue, and I have to pay for that? So I've refused to pay for it. It's been now 6 months, and I've been fighting them for 6 months. I'm like, I'm not going to pay for it. I refuse it. It's absolutely not a high-level medical decision. I will not pay. Now, of course, couldn't ruin my credit, sure, but I'm not buying a house anytime soon. So, hey, but I refuse to be. I refuse to pay for something I didn't. That was a lie. And I'm not going to be blackmailed into paying for it. But of course, that's what they do all the time. If you don't pay this ridiculous bill, we'll just screw you. And that's the problem with the system. So, but Luigi's not going to change the system. So anyway, he's got all his fangirls now. He's a contemporary folk hero, understood by millions to be a brave, righteous American. Okay, who's saying that stupid? Is that a lawyer? That must be his attorney. Is that his attorney? Oh no, this is an idiot. Sam Beard, you're an idiot. A spokesperson for the December 4 legal committee called the former tech whiz a folk hero among millions. Well, Sam Bear, maybe you're a psychopath among millions, as well as Luigi Mangione. The milestone was reached because of the continued resonance of his story. He's a contemporary folk hero, understood by millions. Excuse me, millions aren't understanding him as a folk hero. To be a brave and righteous American. He was not brave. Well, okay, I'll take that back. When people say people are cowards, like serial killers are cowards, I say actually that's not true. Mass murderers, serial killers, this guy really aren't cowards because it takes quite a lot to go out there and blow away people with the realization that you may be shot at the end of the day or you end up in prison. So I'm going to say that is brave. I will give him credit on that because all the time I hear that the person's a coward, the person's a coward. I'm like, they may be a psychopath and a maniac and a horrible, horrible, evil human being, but they're kind of brave. They're not really a coward. Understood by millions to be brave, righteous American. He's not righteous in any way, shape, or form. How dare you say that a cold-blooded psychopath and murderer is righteous just because you don't like, because you don't appreciate the person he killed, you're like, you didn't care much about. Concerned with the lived experience of the common man. He didn't give a crap about the lived experience of the common man. Get out of here now. Stop with the lies. First of all, by the way, I'm still bothered by the fact that whole bit about his back and the back surgery. First of all, apparently claimed he had back surgery. And he showed a picture, an x-ray. The x-ray is, never have we heard where he got this back surgery, who the surgeon was, and if that was a legitimate, an x-ray. We've heard nothing since the day that came out. Everybody said, oh, here he had back surgery. Every single media channel without any kind of proof said that he had back surgery. It pissed me off royally because I would say he claimed he had back surgery, and this is an x-ray he claims is his. That's what I would say. And I would say I would like to know where and when this was done, because it appears that if he had that serious a back injury, he actually hasn't looked like he's had much back problems. He went and did a whole bunch of hiking and crap after that. So it's either the back surgery that he really did have was successful, and then what's your issue? Or two, it wasn't successful, and yeah, maybe you're mad, but I want proof that it wasn't successful and that you even got the back surgery. And on top of that, you're rich as crap. So I don't understand what your problem with the health system is, because poor people everywhere and middle-class people everywhere are going broke, losing their homes and livelihoods because they can't pay the bills. But you're a rich piece of crap. You'd have never had a trouble with that, but yet you relate to the common man. Get out of here. Oh, okay, that's soapbox number 2. Must be a soapbox night for me. All right. Holy crap almighty. My hubby had a spiral break in his arm 6 weeks ago, 3-hour operations. His bills so far are $225,000. Holy God almighty. Thank goodness he has Medicare and supplemental insurance. Yeah, I have Medicare, just A and B, so I don't have any supplemental. So I have always said, if I have anything that's an emergency, I'm screwed. I have to be at least able to get on a plane and get out of the country. So if I need something, some kind of thing that I know I'm going to end up paying $100,000 for, but I can get on a plane and go to some place where I can get it, 1/10 the price, I'll get on the plane. But if I'm hit by a truck, I'm screwed. I'll lose everything that I have left for the rest of my life. And it's ridiculous. 3-hour surgery, that's ridiculous. And that's the problem. You can go in with something minor and they will make you stay there longer, do some useless crap and keep you overnight. And then you get a $10,000 bill. It's insane and it should be illegal. But you still can't go out and shoot down a CEO in cold blood. I mean, if you don't like the guy, you can, you can't do that. It doesn't make you a great person. It's just nonsense. Oh, there you go, Carla. Well, this is true, Carla. All the defense needs to do is convince one juror. I would not be surprised by a hung jury once, twice, and as many times as the state decides to try them. I'm glad you brought that up because, again, this is why I push for a professional jury system. Because although I hate the AMA, I hate our entire medical system, I hate our insurance system, I hate hate, I would find him guilty, as long as the evidence proved that he premeditatedly killed this man. Because I can separate my emotions about this with a criminal act. I mean, that's two different things, but you're absolutely correct. All you need is one person to say, kind of don't mind that he killed him. Oh, I don't think, yeah, not guilty. That's all it takes. And it's in our country, in the US, it's not like, the majority. You have to have every single person involved, which also bothers me, because a lot of times that means you go into a back room and you have somebody bullies the holdouts, will bully them into saying, okay, I want to go home. So, okay, fine, I'll go along with the rest of you. So again, that's not a proper decision. That whole system bothers me greatly. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks. I wouldn't. And it's a gamble. This is the problem. When our attorneys, our prosecutors say it's always a crapshoot of whether the person is going to get convicted or not. It shouldn't be a crapshoot. In other words, if you have sufficient evidence, it shouldn't be a crapshoot. It should be an easy absolute. But it's always a crapshoot. It's because you never know what the jury will do. And that means that the jury is not actually paying attention to evidence. I mean, there's some cases where the evidence is a little, questionable, and therefore the state doesn't prove the case, in which case the jury is correct in not convicting. Absolutely. But a lot of times that's not what the issue is. The issue is simply they don't understand the evidence, or they have an emotional connection to something. And it just becomes a crapshoot, because you can't rely on them to be 100% professional, because they're not professionals. They're regular people. So yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see whatever happens to him. It will be. So yet or new. All right, next thing on. I want to talk about a mushroom lady. A mushroom lady, Erin Patterson. She's a woman that made some delicious food. Yes, she did, a beef Wellington, which it's a heck of a lot of work to make a beef Wellington. And it was quite, beef Wellington can be quite lovely looking when you finish it with a pastry outside. No, it's just, beef inside and this mushroom mixture, and then, the pastry shell. Can be gorgeous. However, when you make it and put poisonous mushrooms in it, it has a different result than, actually everybody said, oh, it was delicious, and then they died. But what was interesting about this, she's in court right now and going through the whole trial. I don't watch trials, but I wanted to point this out, because if I remember again, I'll link my whole video on the case below. I did a case analysis, and I said I believe she is guilty, and I said I believe she made 2 beef Wellingtons. To me, that's the only logical thing. The mushrooms are so poisonous that to put them, like, say, okay, I'm going to put them in the middle, and I'm not going to worry about somehow the poison seeping. I can't believe anybody would take that chance. So I believe she made 2 identical, basic same 2 beef Wellingtons, and then served that with the Wellingtons to people, knowing that she would get a piece from the non-poisonous beef Wellington. Okay, so now, hold on a second. I'm trying not to sneeze. Hold on. Okay. Now, sorry. I have sneezing fits, and I sneeze so many times in a row, but okay. It went away. So anyway, so this says who was and who wasn't at lunch. So my whole thing was I can't remember. I did my video a long time ago. So a lot of times people say, well, you said this in the video. I'm like, I don't remember, because I analyze the case, I do the video, and then I forget a lot of the things, all the details I put in there. But I did believe she made 2 different beef Wellingtons. But the question was, how was it served that she wouldn't end up with the beef Wellington piece that was from the poisonous beef Wellington? So anyway, it says here, so she had invited Simon, and she invited these people over. There they are. Ian Wilkinson on the left was the only one who survived. The other 3 died after having lunch. So they all came over, and she said the purpose of her lunch was to discuss some medical issues she was facing, which apparently she was lying about medical issues too. But she's probably a psychopath. If she poisoned these people and is found guilty, I would say 100% she's a psychopath. And she wanted to seek advice on how to break it to her kids. That was her pretense for the adult-only meal. She dropped the 2 children, 9 and 14, off for lunch and a movie with a friend, so they wouldn't be eating the beef Wellington. then they were surprised by the invitation because they'd never been to her house where she had moved to the previous year. It was testified that it was very rare for Simon testified it was very rare for his wife. I think they were separated. To invite people over, and the family gatherings usually happen at other relatives' homes. Simon texted Patterson the day before lunch and saying he felt too uncomfortable to attend, but he was willing to discuss her health issues over the phone. Patterson responded in a text that Simon read from the stand on Thursday. In it, she said she was disappointed and hoped he would change his mind. I've spent many hours this week preparing lunch for tomorrow, which has been exhausting in light of the issues I'm facing. And I spent a small fortune on beef fillet to make beef Wellington because I wanted it to be a special meal, and it would be a very special meal, as I may not be able to host a lunch like this again in a long time. So she's like, basically, I've got this terrible disease, which I think she was claiming she had cancer, I think. And now she's going to make this special thing, and everybody's going to get together to help her. What should she do about the kids? It is important to me that you're all there tomorrow and that I can have a conversation I need to have. So what happened? She showed her guests around before serving them at the dining room table. She placed individual beef Wellingtons. So she did not put beef Wellington on the table and cut it in front of them, and then people took whatever piece, and she took whatever piece. I knew that couldn't have happened. A steak dish wrapped in pastry, usually with a paste of finely chopped mushrooms. She served that on individual plates, along with mashed potatoes and green beans. So there were 4 large gray dinner plates and 1 smaller light-colored plate, supposedly a blue plate, that she ate off of. It was a small plate. Well, I'm going to say the poison beef Wellington was on the 4 big plates, and the little blue plate was from the non-poisonous beef Wellington she made, the second one. They say that Wilkinsons finished their portion while Gail ate approximately half and gave the rest to her husband, Donald. There was banter among them how much they had eaten. I guess it was very tasty, and so it killed you. After the meal, she told the group she had been diagnosed with cancer. Oh, there we go. There's the cancer thing. After noticing a bump on her elbow and asked for advice on whether to tell her kids, they had a discussion and prayed for her. Then everybody started feeling sick that evening. They had diarrhea, vomiting throughout the night. And they ended up going to the hospital, and 3 out of 4 died. One of the questions that was asked, Heather Wilkinson raised the subject of the different plates at lunch. He said that his aunt said something to the effect of, is Erin short of crockery? Is that why she would have this different kind of colored plate that she served herself with? He replied at the time that Patterson didn't have many matching plates and she might have just run out. So it may, sometimes people do serve on different colored plates. Now I have Fiesta plates. I have blue Fiesta plates, red Fiesta plates, yellow Fiesta plates. What else? Forgot all my Fiesta plates. I have different colors because I think they're pretty. So I'll put down, like, last time I had somebody over for dinner, might have been in year 2000. But anyway, I would put down a pretty cloth, or maybe not at all. And then I put the different colored plates out because I think it's pretty, because I spent time in Mexico and India, and I like all the different colors. So I put all these different colored plates out. Now, that actually would be less suspicious because they would be the same kind of plates. But what I would do is make sure that I got the dark blue plate, and this person got the red plate, this person got the yellow plate, this person got the green plate, and I got the dark blue plate. What she did was give out 4 plates that looked all similar, and then she took a weird, smaller, different color plate. So it's a little more obvious with her. So she figured they'd all be dead, so it wouldn't matter. But she had to make sure she wasn't going to get the plate with the poison stuff on it. Because, how else are you going to do it? You have to make 2 beef Wellingtons and make sure yours is the non-poisonous beef Wellington. And you got to make sure you get that plate. So anyway, it turns out that, let's see, so now they're still in. I'm not going to go through the rest of it because the trial is ongoing. But yeah, so I hope she gets convicted because she should be. Really, cruises started having beef Wellington on the menu. I can't eat it because of this case. And you're like, what's in those mushrooms? Think in reality, a tremendous amount of dishes have mushrooms. As a matter of fact, I had a tostadas tonight with a mix of mushrooms and there's a Mexican tostadas, but what was on top was not meat; it was mushrooms, and then as spices and then cabbage, radish on top. It was delicious, but it was mushrooms. But of course, it was mushrooms from the grocery store, not mushrooms from some place where they have poisonous mushrooms, where I picked them myself. So you'll probably be okay if you eat beef Wellington outside of somebody who you don't trust. So if you don't trust somebody and they say they're gonna make beef Wellington, you might want to think about that. Or mushroom soup, and they say, "Oh, here's a mushroom soup for you. I don't eat soup." Be careful. So anyway, that's an ongoing case. We shall see what happens. I want to talk about this. This is just really ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Anyway, this is a guy named Mahendra Patel. He's an engineer in Georgia, and he was arrested for the attempted kidnapping of a baby. This is one of the most bizarre cases I have heard of for a long darn time. So this is what happened. He goes into a store. Let's see. He's been in jail for 43 days. He finally got a bond hearing. His lawyer claims he was wrongfully arrested, and he's finally out on bail. But here he is. He goes into a Walmart store on March 18th in Georgia, in Cobb County. He goes in there, and it comes up to this woman who is she's in one of these, little, the chairs you can roll around in, the electric ones, and she's got two children with her, a little girl and a baby in her lap. And he's over talking to her, and what he's doing, wait a minute. And so he asks her about where Tylenol is in the store. Now, why he asked her, I do not know. I don't know, because, and eventually he did ask a store employee. She didn't seem to know, so he asked the store employee. The store employee told him where it was. He went and got it. He went back as he was passing by her lady. Went, yeah, see, I found it. And she's like, thumbs up. And he leaves the store. So this woman, she is the woman you see over here on the right side. That's her. Now, the claim is, after he left the store, she claimed that, okay, here's his version. He said he asked Miller, her name is Miller. What's her first name? Because I would like to give her first name, Caroline Miller, or Carolyn Miller, depending on how you pronounce it, where the Tylenol was. She showed him a direction. Patel felt her son was falling from, like she was holding on to him, and the son looked like he was falling. So he sort of grabbed the little baby and pushed him back. He grabbed hold and she pulled him back. Then he says, "Oh, well, the kid fell." So he went like this and she pulled it back. After this interaction, they went on their separate ways, which is true. The surveillance footage shows that Patel later showed Miller something in his hand, which was the Tylenol he found, and she gave him a thumbs up. Then he leaves the store. Meanwhile, between the time he supposedly touched this child, here he is, okay. Then she's chatting with somebody else. This is not him. This is somebody else. I think it might be the storm player. But she's sitting there like, "Hey, what's up?" Now, mind you, she claims that this guy tried to kidnap her baby, but now she's sitting there happily talking to somebody else, and also trying to run over her own daughter with a vehicle she was in. But after he left the store. Miller later called the police and told them that there was a tug of war-like situation with a child, following which Patel fled the area. He didn't flee the area. He talked to somebody else. Then first of all, he went back by her and said, "Look, I got the Tylenol." Then he talked to somebody else. Then he went up to the counter and paid for it. And then he walked out to his car. That is not fleeing the area. When I heard he fled the area, I literally thought he got in his car and fled town for 3 days. No, he just left the store. That's not fleeing the area. And then 3 days later, he was arrested, and the Cobb County District Attorney's Office took the case to the grand jury, which indicted him. A petition on Change.org accumulated over 46,000 signatures till Tuesday. Mahendra Patel is a community pillar who for many years has contributed significantly to the growth and development of the LPS community. I don't know what LPS means, in the United States. His wrongful implication of a crime he did not commit is not just an individual struggle, but a collective battle against discrimination. The petition added he was not seeking any monetary help from anybody. I looked at that video and I see no evidence that he was trying to kidnap that kid. Now, what I want to point out is this. Having been involved in the Indian community for many years, Indians like kids. I mean, it's just a very family thing that they just love children. They're really nice to kids. Anytime they see kids, they talk to kids. They like pick them up and bounce around. They're just kid people. They're kid people. It's very warm-hearted in that way. So that he would, and they're also chatty, in my opinion. Indians tend to be chatty people. So if I were at a store sitting there and an Indian person comes by, they might easily chat with me and say, hey, you don't know where the Tylenol is? That's what they do. And, oh, the child's falling. Okay, I'm putting in oh, let me catch a baby. Or what a cute baby, whatever. Now, so there was zero evidence that he ever intended to kidnap that baby. He knew the cameras were every place. He talked to the store people. He checked out with a credit card. I mean, his name is every place. There was he really going to grab a kid and try to run out of the store and run to his car, which is also on camera? The whole thing is ludicrous. He's an engineer. He's there's nothing that will put him in that way of thinking. I mean, it makes any damn sense. Even if he were a child, like predator of some sort, that just made zero sense that he would have done this. Now, here's what gets really interesting. The woman, he was indicted. He's 56 years old. Held without bond. I think he was in jail for six weeks. Indicted by a grand jury. I don't know what they indicted him with. I don't even understand how they indicted him. As I say, a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. Well, maybe so, but this seems so outrageous. I can't even understand it. Charges were criminal attempt to commit kidnapping, simple assault, and simple battery. Now, here's what gets really, where's the rest of it? I can't find the rest of it, but here's the rest of it. The woman, apparently she accused a Uber driver of attempting to rape her. That never went any place. So the question I have been asked, is this woman Munchausen syndrome by proxy? Or Munchausen's, no, not even Munchausen syndrome, just Munchausen syndrome. And my answer might be, yes, she might well be. If she's accusing two different people of doing things to her, one which Patel looks, to me, I can't see anything in that. Especially after, I mean, if he tried to grab her kid, she would think she'd be shot to high heaven right there and then. But no, she's chatting with different people and then later on accuses him of trying to steal her kid. And the same thing she did to the Uber driver. I think she's Munchausen syndrome, which is a psychopathy, which is a woman who claims things are being done to her that aren't being done to her. Because that's a way to get attention. And a lot of times it works because people feel sorry for women and like, oh my God, this guy tried to rape her. Or, oh my God, this guy tried to steal her baby. Unbelievable. I mean, it's really creepy. And that this guy, Mr. Patel, would be, I mean, did they not look at the entire long video, which would show that there's no evidence that he was ever doing anything wrong? I mean, I don't understand how he got indicted, but it's creepy as heck that he got indicted. I mean, maybe they know something I don't. Maybe if he's got a long history of trying to steal babies, okay. But I don't see any evidence that way at all. Maybe something will come out. If something comes out that he does this kind of thing, has done this kind of thing before, well, then I take back everything I said. But if everything was based on just what happened in that store, there's no evidence on that video that he was kidnapping any kid. Culturally, I don't see anything that's not what just kind of a normal Indian thing is. And if that woman also, she seems to be totally happy and totally unconcerned about the supposed almost attempted kidnapping and is chatting and whatever. And then makes an accusation later on. And this whole thing about Uber is another concern. I also want to know, did she really need the cart she's running around in? Or is that another attention getter? I don't know. I'd like to know more about this woman. So I might talk about this case in the future, but it's very bizarre, little off to me. Oh, there's a good point. Texas read it. I think Child Protection Services need to check on the safety of her kids. Yes. If she is making fraudulent claims of people trying to harm her children or her, those children are in danger because she may well use them in the future to get attention. That's Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And hopefully she's not babysitting other people's children. I would like to know how often her children go to the doctor. I'd like to know how often anything happened to the children. I'd like to know if she's watching everybody else's children. I also want to know if when she's not in that little conveyance, whether she works on the midnight shift in a nursing home and there's people kicking off in the night, because that's a popular job for Munchausen syndrome people. Oh, LDS, what's that? LDS? Oh, okay, hold on a second. No, it was LPS, not LDS, because I'm going to say Patel. Now, mind you, anybody, LDS is Mormon. LPS, I don't know what the heck that is. But I will say this, in general, the name Patel would indicate, for the most part, that he is Hindu. If his last name was Shah, he would be Muslim. If his first name was like Abraham, he would be likely Christian. So there's in India, you have Hindus, Muslims, Christians of many kinds, evangelical, Seventh-day Adventists, Catholic. Then there's other groups. So there are Buddhists there as well, and Parsi people are there. So yeah, there's all kinds. There's quite a few religions rolling around. Jews. I mean, it's amazing how many different kinds there are. Hindus are the largest group, Muslims second, and Christians probably third, of many sorts. So Patel usually is Hindu. So I don't know a community that this LPS is. I can't quite figure out what it is. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'd have to research it to figure out what the LPS community is. Not sure at all. Well, what's a popular job for Munchausen peeps? Okay, Lisa, nursing. Nursing is especially practical nursing where you don't have to get your full degree. Practical nursing, nursing homes, especially on the midnight shift. Why? Because it doesn't take much to get the job, and you can mess with the patients there and get some attention. And probably not going to get questioned. In my opinion, there's two main jobs. For female serial killers, it's nursing. For male serial killers, it's security work. Now, I say this without proving anything by any kind of statistics, because I hate statistics. I'm too lazy. Once upon a time, if I were in my 30s and studying for a degree in criminal justice, I have got a degree in criminal justice, a master's, but, if I were going to do some huge, massive research project, I might, get all the details on that, but I'm too lazy now. But those are two areas which give people power and are easy jobs to get. And that's because a lot of times people have psychopathy at a certain level. I mean, people have psychopathy in higher levels of work, certain kinds of work, but where it's easier to get a job for a person who may not get along with other people that well. They're not that clever, or maybe highly educated. Maybe they're not highly educated or rich or anything. They're just kind of regular folk. Security work is very easy to get because they need so many security guards, and especially unarmed security is like, if you breathe, you got the job. Mall security, bouncer work at bars. And I say this, people always say, well, that's really a mean thing to say. Okay. They've been security. Actually, all of them have done the work. They've all done that work. They were security. He was security. She was security. He was a bouncer. So, hey, so it's obviously not the majority of people, but it is an easy job to get. And for there's a lot of women to get into nursing, especially practical nursing, which is much easier. And so that's why we have, oftentimes you find somebody has Munchausen syndrome by proxy, you find out that they're in the nursing field. And it's because they have that level of power and control over patients. And yeah, they like that. And of course, it doesn't mean the rest of the people are Munchausens. It's like every profession has this little small portion of people that work in that profession who have a certain type of psychopathy or issue. It's that small group. And in every profession, you've got somebody. That's why people keep going after Catholic churches and priests, because obviously, since it is celibate, there is a small portion who like altar boys. Well, there's that small portion. Police, most of them are fine. Then you get a small portion who are completely into power and control, and they're and teachers, you got those. So every profession has its small portion. That doesn't mean the rest of the people are bad or the profession's wrong. I know some profilers I question as on the line of psychopathy, because, well, I won't get into it, but it's not me. It's not me. All right, let's see what else I got here. Let's see. Somebody asked me about, okay, I want to do this one. The reason I want to do this one is because, okay, not her. Let me start with her. Okay, this is, I can't do a full show on this because I don't have enough information to ever go very far with it. But what I thought was interesting about it was a claim that they made, the police in these two cases. And let me show. Okay, what this woman's name is Nancy Grunweldt, and this is what she looked like approximately the time she disappeared. And she was riding her bicycle in Tasmania and then vanished in 1993. It says here now in 2023, they're saying New Hope dashed, but Tasmania police still seeking clues to Nancy Grunwaldt's missing person case. All right, it's been 3 decades since 1993 disappearance of German tourist Nancy Grunweldt. Now, keep in mind the 1993. They're hoping for some new information, looking for tips, blah, 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 and not getting it, which is not unusual. What happened on Friday, March 12th, 1993, she was riding her bike, a mountain bike, along Tasman Highway, approximately 5 kilometers south of Scamander. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but anyway, shortly afterwards, somewhere along that way, she was killed. They didn't know what happened to her. She vanished. No trace of her body, clothes, or bike have ever been found, despite extensive land, sea, and air searches. They believe there's 2 possible scenarios. One was she was murdered, and the other was she was hit by a passing motorist and they disposed of the evidence. I'm okay with both of those theories. They're still searching the bushland for remains. They've never found anything. So, hasn't gone well. Now, there's another case. The second case is Victoria Cafasso. She had been in Tasmania less than a week when she was killed. Now, in this case, they actually don't know that she was killed because she's disappeared with a bike, clothes, body, everything. Is she probably dead? Yes. Where is she? Don't know. In theory, somebody had to take her away, bury her body or whatever, probably on somebody's property. Why? Could she have been hit and somebody panicked? Sure, that's possible. Was it a serial killer? And this is what I'm going to get to. So let's take a look at this other victim in Tasmania. Now, mind you, not knowing Tasmania well, I'm not quite sure how far apart things are. Okay? Because one of the problems is you can have more than one kind of murderer in an area. You can have more than one serial killer in an area. What do we mean by close? Like in Washington, D.C. area, we can have a serial killer in Montgomery County, but he can cross into Prince George's County. He can cross into Virginia. I live in Maryland, but it's only a 15-minute drive to Virginia. So it's very easy for a serial killer to end up over there, as well as in Maryland. So, for example, he could be in Maryland and he kills somebody here, and then he loses his job and his sister kicks him out of the house. So he goes and he just moves over 15 minutes away at his cousin's house in Virginia. Then he murders somebody in Virginia. Different state, but it's the same guy. The area is not that far apart. And even sometimes if the area has 50 miles between, it doesn't mean the guy can't have gone to a different location at some point in time and then committed a crime there. And as a matter of fact, that works out well because it's not even the same police department. work. It's great if you can actually have distance between your murders. That's a good thing. So anyway, she was murdered on this beautiful beach in Beaumaris Beach on Tasmania's east coast. That's where she was murdered. What they say about this, she was, it's really sad. She came to Tasmania. She was staying with family in Tasmania for barely a week. She's from England, and she came to visit. She was a law student in Italy. She deferred her law studies in Italy after spending time in England and traveled to the seaside town to stay with her cousin. So she was enjoying being young and visiting different parts of the world. She had limited contact with locals during that time, but her brutal death sent a shockwave throughout the small coastal community. 50 people visited the beach that day of her death on October 11th, but no one has come forward to say they saw or heard the crime. So the first crime was 1993, and this crime was, where's the year? Give me the year. Seriously. I love it when they do reporting, 1995. It's 2 years later. The reporting sometimes is so bad the way they leave out information, and it's hard to find. So anyway, she goes down to the beach. This is what the story is. So 50 people visited that beach that day, but it is a pretty big beach. So I don't know. And over periods of time, and nobody saw her. No charges have ever been laid, and her father has died only 6 weeks after a murder after not getting answers. Very sad. They have a person of interest. They thought he was like some surfer, and then they have this car which they drove this car around, and they did a reenactment using a car that looked like this car, a Subaru, to say, hey, anybody see this car? Anyway, they have a description of a man that was seen running across the beach at 11 a.m. that day. Could have been a jogger, and a driver of a vehicle that was seen in the area around the time. One of these things where if you were that guy who was running on the beach or in that car and you didn't kill her, you're not going to be knocking on the police door anytime soon. You're like, oh, they don't think it's me, because I'm going to hide, right? So anyway, what happened with her? Trying to find the part where they say what happened to her. She was stabbed to death, but I want to point out what. Okay, terrible article. Terrible article. Yeah, give me some information there. She was stabbed to death in broad daylight on a scenic beach. Okay, I want the details. Where'd the details go? Right. Must be a different article, because if they decided not to put it in this article for whatever reasons. Okay, hold on. Okay, very bad article. How about this? Oh, where is it? Wow. Where did it go? How about this? Hold on a second. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. This is what I wanted. They put out a $100,000 reward, now $500,000 reward, nothing. This is what happened. On the morning of 11th of October, she went for a walk around 9 a.m. She's believed to have been observed sunbathing on the beach around 10 a.m. We're talking about broad daylight. The police estimated that over 50 people would have visited the beach between 8:30 a.m. and the time her body was discovered partially in the water about 1:30 p.m. She was partly undressed, probably due to the scuffle, and had probably died between 11:30 and 12:35 p.m. Signs of a violent scuffle and some of her belongings were found 50 meters further up the beach. Other items such as her missing bikini bottoms, t-shirt, or other, and the murder weapon have never been located. She was stabbed. She had been violently attacked on the beach, initially defending herself from a blunt object which broke 3 of her teeth, and not from the following knife attack, suffering 17 stab wounds. Okay. She hardly was even in Tasmania before she got murdered. So this does not look like an acquaintance murder or a family, somebody she knew. It doesn't look that way at all. It looks like a violent sexual assault. She's missing her bikini bottoms. Why? If somebody's just beating her on the head and stabbing her, her bikini bottoms don't need to be falling off. So I believe it was a sexual assault. And she was in the water, and I don't know, I can't get any information here what DNA issues with her were, but it doesn't help that you're in the water either for a period of time. And obviously people say, well, how did nobody see her? Well, obviously nobody did. 50 people at the point when somebody attacked her, they did one of these, what a serial killer always does. Nobody's around, whack. It sometimes only takes seconds for them to initiate an attack, a minute for them to get the person under control, 5 minutes to complete whatever they want to do, chuck her body in the water, maybe take her little souvenirs with them, or just maybe I don't know what happened to it, and run off. Whether he was in the Subaru or not, I have no idea. Whether he had a surfboard or not, I have no idea. But here's what bothers me. The disappearance of German tourist Nancy Grunweldt 2 years earlier created rumors a serial killer could be living in the area, but that was eventually also ruled out. What's the problem with this statement? My fellow profilers here. What's the problem with that statement? Lex. Thanks, Pat, for doing the Victoria Cafasso today. I only suggested the case. Yes, that's true. But it's so sad that there's so little to talk about. And you could talk about it as a sad thing, and this is what happened, but it's very hard to profile. I can't profile a person who did it, unless, FBI might say something, but it's silly. There's no way to know how old the person was, whether they were probably a local, but that's a pretty severe crime. So the question is, I honestly don't know. It could have been the guy wanted to mess with her, and then he got pissed off. It could, it's hard to say, but she's half clothed, and that makes me wonder. That's not the problem. That is not. Oh, hello, Cat. Kitty's here. Hello. Hi, Mac. Okay, just saying hello. Here's an interesting problem, and you bring it up. There's no evidence of a serial killer, but on the other hand, there's no evidence that there isn't a serial killer. This is extremely important when you're analyzing a crime. They haven't ruled it out. Yes, they did. That's the problem. Look again. This is what they said. There were rumors of a serial killer could be living there, but that was eventually also ruled out. They ruled out a serial killer. How the heck did they rule out a serial killer? We don't know. That's true, Lex. We have no idea if there's any connection or it's coincidence. It could be that somebody did hit her with a car and did hurt her body. And then he's not a serial killer. He's the person who panicked. It could be a serial killer. He saw this girl going down the road. He grabbed her, was able to get her to a private location, and therefore buried her in his backyard. But one day he's out at the beach, sees this other girl and says, hey, opportunity. But he didn't have anything to take her away in, so he just raped and murdered her at the spot. Maybe. Could be. Or it could be neither one is a serial killer. One hit her with a car. And Nancy, on the beach, maybe some guy got in an argument with her, and he's like has some kind of drug issue, and he stabbed her to death in an angry rage, and then ran away. Maybe, but maybe it's a serial killer. Maybe a serial killer killed both of them. Maybe there's two different serial killers. My question is, how do they rule out a serial killer? No, rumors are not evidence. That's all garbage. That's all garbage talk. Absolutely. But if you're a police department, you don't rule out what I always call a possible serial killer. When you have what looks like a sexual homicide by a stranger, I want to ask you, because I've taught this for a really long time, all of you here, what kind of person commits a sexual homicide on a stranger? Do tell me. That's a good point. Who walks the beach? Well, I don't know. A lot of people like knives, but that's a pretty good knife. But you can use it for cutting strings and things. Thank you, Taylor. Serial killers. Exactly. If you sexually assault and murder a woman that's a stranger, you are probably a serial killer. It could be your first kill, but the fact that you would cross the line to rape and murder a complete stranger makes you the serial killer type. It's just a matter of time before you commit the second serial crime, the second murder. Then you are absolutely a serial killer. So I call that a suspected serial killer or a possible serial killer. If you do not look at it that way, what happens when the police say to the community, oh, it's not a serial killer? First of all, people then think, oh, it's safe to walk around when it may not be. Secondly, you want them to look for the person who would do this, in which case you need to find out who that psychopath is before he commits the next serial homicide. Now, people sometimes say, well, no, another one didn't happen after 1995 in this area of Tasmania. Or maybe again, because the guy lost his job and went to live with his cousin 200 miles away. And now they don't connect those two. There's another stranger sexual homicide, and they go, oh, it's not a serial killer. There was a case up in Canada. One day I'll have to do a show on this because it was bizarre. There was a tree. There was a tree, and they found this woman's body under the tree. This woman who had been sexually assaulted and murdered, her body was buried under the tree. And then they found a bunch of other women's bodies under the tree, all from different times. They had the gall to actually say that it wasn't a serial killer. So what, did somebody just put out a sign? Hey, if you killed somebody, just dump them under this tree. Obviously, it's the same guy. He had picked the same tree to bury all the women he murdered. How can you say it's not a serial killer? But this, oftentimes, police departments will tell the community there's not a serial killer because they don't want them to worry. Take a look at the Rachel Marin case up in Bel Air in Maryland, where she was attacked on a bike path, raped and murdered. Now that guy, the person he attacked in California didn't kill, was a minor sexual assault, but he killed Rachel Marin. That guy is a serial killer. Whether we know that who he's killed before or whether he would kill again, the fact he would rape and murder a complete stranger makes him a serial killer if he had the opportunity or has already had the opportunity. So when the police go out and say that, first of all, they're just trying to, not only do they want to calm the community, but the pressure, when you say there could be a serial killer, the media goes berserko, and they put so much pressure on the police department that it drives, it's really hard for them to do their jobs because there's so much pressure. So a lot of times they'll just simply say it's not a serial killer in order to take the heat off of themselves. But it would be useful if they're looking for the guy to put out information that would help actually catch the guy. And both of these cases are unsolved, maybe because they toned it down too much. So, yeah, that bothers me tremendously when they go out and say absolutely isn't a serial killer. They could say we have no evidence at this point it's a serial killer, but due to the kind of crime it is, we would like to say we're keeping that fact it could be a serial killer in mind, and here are some of the possibilities. Here's what we're looking for. That's what they should do. Well, bye-bye, kitty. He's taken off. But that always bugs me. This is just a simple, sad case. I'm trying to see my pictures here. What is that picture? Actually, I got to look at this picture. Oh, this poor girl. Yeah, this poor girl. This is just, it's freaking bad luck and a terrible U.S. justice system. This poor girl. She is 22 years old. She was from North Carolina. And as they point out, she was a true victim. And why, when people say, well, what do you mean by true victim? In other words, when you look at whether a person has got what kind of lifestyle they live, whether they're high risk or low risk, she was low risk. There was nothing she was doing that should have gotten her killed. And that's why he said that, although some people were upset about that. But anyway, what happened was she was hard at school, working 2 jobs to become a teacher. She loved and adored children of all ages. She was from Waxhaw, North Carolina. She visited some friends. She went out with the friends and arrived back at the place she was staying on Cypress Street before 3 a.m. in the morning. She wasn't killed out drinking and whatever. She came back and she was back at the house. No, Nothing was going on. It wasn't a drug house. There's nothing going on in the house that was concerning. They were some friends of hers. According to investigators, 30-year-old Alexander Dickey broke into a home on Cypress Street, on the same street, stole the keys to a vehicle and several items, including a firearm. So he goes rummaging through the rooms and he grabs a firearm. That person who owns that house, the person who owns that weapon, I want them in jail. I want them for aiding and abetting. Why? Because that weapon was not secured. It was not in a safe and it was not on his person. He left that weapon available. Now, truly it was stolen, but still it wasn't secured. That guy took that weapon, then went down the street, broke into that home that she was staying at. Let's see. When he was there, he stole several items, including a wallet, credit cards, and debit cards. And while he was in there, she entered the room and he shot her with the gun that was left unsecured at the neighbor's house. Then he drove away in the stolen vehicle to go on a shopping spree with the stolen cards and credit cards. Then, this is unbelievable. The guy's an idiot, though. So he's making these fraudulent purposes, and then he was with a stolen vehicle and it failed to start and he got stranded. So he called a tow service. Dude, I don't care if you have to walk 10 miles. You don't call a tow service. You walk away from the car you stole. But he actually calls a tow service. And he gets the stolen vehicle moved to a home of a female acquaintance. And then when they arrived at that house, he fled into a wooded area. He should have fled to the wooded area after the car failed, and he wouldn't be in prison now. But anyway, so they caught him. They eventually caught him, taken into custody. Now, he was charged with murder, 2 counts of first-degree burglary, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, possession of a firearm prohibited because he was a felon, 2 counts of grand larceny of motor vehicle, whatever. He was denied bond. Oh, at least that. Now, what's interesting about this creep, this guy, and what's wrong with our justice system is that he is, let me see if I can find it. This guy is like, where is it? Oh, here we go. Long criminal history of accused Columbia killer. Now, what was his? He's 22 years old. He's very young. Very young. But let's see about him. In total, he faces nearly 40 charges from the past decade. What, he started at 12 years old? Maybe. With many of the counts ultimately dismissed. Why were they dismissed? Well, the criminal pattern dates back to 2013. Wow. Yeah, okay. He was a kid. His first conviction came the following year. So 2014 was actually convicted. If he's only 22, wow. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to 3rd-degree burglary. That's one of the 40 charges across 10 years. While he was sentenced to 5 years, and mind you, he's a repeat felon. He gets 5 years, but he was given credit for 410 days already served. He was placed on probation. So he got less than a year, which is set to end next month, but was shortened for compliance. So the criminal pattern over the years mirrors what happened in the hours before Federico, the poor girl, was murdered. So that's what he does. He goes on crime sprees. But apparently, at 22 years old, he has spent hardly any time in prison, in spite of the fact he's been charged God knows how many times. And if our system doesn't understand that repeat offenders like this are dangerous, completely innocent people get murdered. She's lost her life because of this piece of garbage that they didn't do anything about. And it's just really super, super sad. Yeah. She literally did. She was just doing absolutely nothing that would put her in a high-risk category. So, yeah, and that's always the fear, you know. I think when you raise kids and stuff, your fear is always that wrong place at the wrong time. That maybe the place isn't even a wrong place. It's just it's a right place. But if a killer comes into the right place and you're just standing there, you can go down. It's a different thing if you're involved in a bad drug deal. I'm like, okay, I wish I hadn't gotten killed because it would, maybe you could have got your life back together. But if you're just there and you just get shot for just being there, just take away your life for no reason. That really bothers me. Ooh. Christoph says, what strikes me from the outside about the USA is that sometimes the punishments are draconian and sometimes they come out very early. Very inconsistent. Yeah, I can't argue your point. It does seem that there's no logical reason for the choices that are made under different circumstances. It all seems very haphazard. I totally agree with you. Totally agree. And it shouldn't be that haphazard, but they supposedly look into how old the person is and what the extenuating circumstances are, blah, blah, blah. So it does get super, super complicated. But yeah, I mean, you got Mr. Patel, who seems to have absolutely no proof, saying that he tried to kidnap any kid. And he gets dragged away, and then, which makes no sense. And then you get this guy who's just running around every place creating havoc and nobody's doing anything about it. It's crazy. Too many good people are killed and too few bad people get away with doing bad. Yeah, there you go. That is absolutely true. Let's see. Oh, I got to mention this because we're back to more about the Lindbergh baby. Yes, the Kim. If I remember, I'll link my video on Lindbergh. So they got this DNA now. Wait a minute. What is? Okay, they got this DNA supposedly because it seems like somebody's got a book in the making, or there's a documentary in the making, because we have these where the conspiracy things pop up on certain cases. You always get like new evidence found, new whatever, Jack the Ripper. They had that thing. Oh my God, we found DNA from Jack the Ripper, and now we know who it is. And that was a big fat lie. So here we go. Now it's not Jack the Ripper. Now it's the Lindbergh baby, because that case will never die, even though the kid did. So the case. Now this is the Guardian, which I do not respect very much. This is what they said. The case was shocking. Transatlantic aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife Anne Morrow Lindbergh suffered the kidnapping and murder of their 20-month-old baby. Now a new lawsuit filed in New Jersey, where the crime played out, seeks to force the state police to allow mitochondrial DNA testing on envelopes used to send a series of ransom notes. Okay, so this paragraph says that Lindbergh and his wife suffered the kidnapping and murder of their baby. Okay, but then the next sentence is, the crime was pinned on 36-year-old German immigrant Bruno Hauptmann. Oh, okay. I think Bruno was involved in this. I absolutely do. I do not think Lindbergh was involved in it. Charles Lindbergh is kind of a despicable human being, but that doesn't mean he wanted his baby dead. Okay, and I think the whole thing drummed up over time with the conspiracy thing is like Lindbergh, got his own baby kidnapped, and it's just nonsense. So Bruno, he was kidnapped for ransom, and Bruno, I believe that the evidence was strong. So check out my video on that. But they say pinned on. I mean, if you're a journalist, why are you saying pinned on? Unless you can prove it was pinned on him, all you need to say was he was convicted. On 36-year-old German immigrant Bruno Hauptmann, but his conviction relied on circumstantial evidence. Well, a lot of cases rely on circumstantial evidence. Doesn't mean not anything was pinned on him. It means the circumstantial evidence was convincing enough, which it was. He was sent to the electric chair and maintained his innocence. Okay. But the involvement of unknown co-conspirators has never been entirely ruled out. Okay. That doesn't mean Hauptmann is innocent and anything was pinned on him. It just means that he was the one that was gotten. And if he's not going to give up his co-conspirators, well, dude, too bad, dude. Could he have had a co-conspirator? I don't object to that. Then it says here, even the prosecutor in the case seemed to have doubts that he acted alone. Okay, so what? Sometimes you can't prove who did it with the person. It doesn't mean that they're innocent of anything. Okay, so it had this profound effect on American legal and cultural history and about the FBI, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So there's an archive. And in the archive, there was, let me find it here. There were these envelopes. Where is it? Okay, so who's after this information? There's these two people who are obsessed with the case. Let me find their names. The plaintiffs are Jonathan Hagel, a New Jersey native and professor at the University of Kansas, who has studied the Lindbergh case for decades. In other words, he's obsessed. Of course, but probably believes Lindbergh was involved. That's my guess. Almost everybody who's obsessed thinks Lindbergh was behind the whole thing. Michelle Downey, a retired school teacher, and Catherine Reed, an author. Oh, there we go. We're going to get the book. And developmental psychologist. Probably all believe Lindbergh did it. So they want these envelopes somebody licked or the stamps that they licked to be examined. The ruling says that because now you can do genetic testing and all, that they should be examined. Perhock, I don't know who Perhock is. Oh, that's the attorney. 93-year-old case, and I don't think they actually care about knowing the truth. Because of what truth are they trying? If it was just a couple of co-conspirators who nobody cared about, that's not what they're after. They're after pinning it on Lindbergh I'll say that now, because they hate Charles Lindbergh because they consider him a questionable character as far as race issues go and wanting to, eliminate certain people from the world. Okay. Guy was a little concerning. Okay. I don't disagree with that. I don't have to like him. But I think that's why they're so obsessed with it. They want to prove Lindbergh got rid of his son. That's why they're so obsessed with it. They said there's an urgency to examine the documents because the Lindbergh documents have already been threatened by a water leak. It's not like they're being kept in the Smithsonian. It's not an environment where it's going to last indefinitely. They're deteriorating and wearing down and will continue to do so. Okay, that's probably true. So they're asking that they said there may be no more saliva available there, but there's 15 total envelopes which contain 12 stamps and they're still adhesive. Unless someone in 1932 had the foresight to dab water on the adhesive, there's a high likelihood that there's still saliva attached to those pieces of paper. That's true, because back then there wasn't DNA, so you didn't have to take a sponge and put the stamps on with a sponge or close the letters with a sponge. I agree with them that it's more likely that saliva was being used to close everything. I don't have a problem with them doing DNA testing. I think, what the hell? As long as it's done carefully, you're still going to basically retain the look of the envelope or whatever. There's no reason why you can't do the DNA testing. I have no objection at all. So will they get anything? I don't know. We have the technology to amplify very, very small amounts of DNA. That's true. And are getting better at parsing out contaminant DNA, including recovering particles from a document or stamp without destroying it. Okay, I'm all good with that. So few seriously doubt that 36-year-old Hauptmann was at least involved with the Lindbergh baby case. Yes, very few do, because the evidence was very good. He was arrested after using a $10 bill from the $50,000 ransom. Some of the ransom money was found in his garage and wood used to make the ladder match wooden beams in his home. Come on now, that's extremely good evidence. But the man who came to collect the ransom through an intermediary at the Bronx Cemetery, who became known as Cemetery John, did not match his appearance. So people who they believe it was not Hauptmann. So that's okay. He might have had somebody working with him, but it wasn't Charles Lindbergh. That's my belief. I don't think Charles Lindbergh had anything to do with this. Maybe a scumbag, but he was a great aviator and part of our history, and he got his kid kidnapped. Maybe you don't like his politics, but that doesn't mean he did anything. In the event that Hauptmann's DNA is found on the envelope, it just proves that he was a conspirator like everybody knew. But the broader concern they have is extending it so that you can test to see if anybody else was involved. I don't have an issue with it. I think they should go ahead and test it. But I think that all the people involved, they're not interested in some unknown conspirator. They're absolutely interested in Lindbergh being involved. So I think they're disingenuous. I'll have to look up their names and see if they all think Lindbergh did it, So, yeah, they found the money in his house. Yeah. He was already a bad guy in Germany, so they sent him away. So, I said, if it wasn't my video, it's very, very obvious that he was definitely involved in the kidnapping of the baby. I said he could have had somebody help him. I don't object to that, but the whole big conspiracy theory here is Charles Lindbergh was behind the whole thing, and it's all nonsensical. It is. I don't buy any of it. But people, again, what they tend to do is they find somebody they want to take down because they think that person's despicable. And so they want to rev up whatever evidence they have against the person they consider despicable to take them, to get them, to ruin their reputation further, or to get them imprisoned. And that happens all the time. And, it bothers me because people aren't relying on evidence. Again, they're relying on emotion. And you cannot like somebody, but it has nothing to do necessarily with they committed a crime. Now, if they did commit the crime, well, then you should take them down. I don't have an objection to that either. As a matter of fact, that would be grand. But if there's no actual evidence, just because you don't like them, it's not a good reason to have them convicted of a crime they didn't commit. So, so I say, apparently Lindbergh, he was a hero at the time, became a non-hero later on in the minds of many people. So I think they're still after him. I think that's their big thing. Let's see if I have anything else here. Maybe I don't have much. Who's this? Oh, this is something. I'm just going to follow this case. This is just, well, it's not just to the family. I'll tell you that. This is a woman who she went missing. She's 53 years old. She went missing. They didn't know what happened to her. They asked for a well check, and they found her body in a safe in her house, inside a safe. Oh crap! They just said I'm locked out of this. Oh, I hate it when they do this. Yeah, they found her body inside a 4-foot safe in her house. And I don't have any information yet what's in the medical examiner's office, but they said there were some domestic issues, although I don't think she was living with anybody at the time, but she's ended up in a safe. Now, theoretically, a 4-foot safe, you could possibly get into it yourself and pull the door shut maybe, and then that would be a suicide. I don't think she was hiding from somebody in there in an accident. Well, she could have, and then closed the door thinking she could get out and then died. Possibility. Or somebody hurt her and made her unconscious and then stuffed her in there, which is another possibility. So I'm going to wait. Maybe in a week or two, I'll have some information on the case. But that one just popped up, and I thought, interesting. Let's see if I have anything else. I think that is most of it that I have. Oh no! I forgot to do this one. Okay, I got to do this one before you all disappear on me. Where is she? Where is she? Here we are. This is a bizarre case. And so this will be my last thing for today. So she was getting divorced, and she was supposed to meet her divorce attorney. That's the guy on the right. And they were going to trial a few days from then. And so I'll read you what happened. It was daylight. She was an Ohio nurse. She was killed in broad daylight 12 years ago in downtown Cleveland while waiting for her divorce attorney to let her into his law office. 12 years later, they actually arrested her attorney, her divorce attorney. And you say, what the heck? So anyway, on March 24th, 53-year-old mother of 3 from Beechwood was chased and fatally stabbed by a hooded figure near the office building where her attorney, Gregory Moore, 51, had told her to meet him. He's now been arrested and charged with 1 count of aggravated murder, 1 count of conspiracy, 6 counts of murder, and 2 counts of kidnapping. So her family has been waiting for a decade to get any information on what happened to her. Now, supposedly he had plotted for months to kidnap and attack Sherman, all to, quote, obstruct the judge from trying her divorce case during the week of March 25th, 2013, a date that had been set by the judge. His aim was to prevent Sherman from being available to attend the proceeding. He was trying to delay the court case. So apparently this guy was a crappy lawyer, is never prepared. And so what he'd do is he wouldn't be prepared in time. So he's trying to delay these court cases so he could be prepared to do them. This isn't the first time he tried to delay trials. In 2012, he allegedly called them bomb threats on 3 different dates to courthouses where he's scheduled to be on trial. So they I guess linked him to the bomb threats. So he wasn't ready to go to court. So and somebody said, well, why would he do all that? Why did he just back out of the case? Well, apparently at some point he'd lose his license. He wouldn't be able to practice because he was doing this kind of thing. and wasn't ready. So he lose his license. Apparently he didn't want to lose his license. And the judge said, you're going to be in court that day. You absolutely have to be there. So he killed the client so that he wouldn't have to go to court. That's a theory. Now, there's a lot of evidence he was involved in this. So I do believe that this guy, Gregory Moore, her divorce attorney, was involved in her murder. Now, there's a lot of people who in the comments have said, are you sure he wasn't actually doing something on behalf of her husband? Now, he seems like a real piece of work anyway, that he is, calling in bomb threats on other cases. So it seems like this is a pattern of his, that he would go to the point of killing somebody rather than just calling another bomb threat or do something. Just why would he would go to that level to not have to go to court? Seems extreme, except maybe he's a whack job. You know what I mean? But the people's questions as to maybe the husband was behind it, like did the husband, this guy's maybe a failing attorney, and the husband said, look, I don't want, get rid of my wife. I'll give you $50,000. Maybe. So I'll be looking forward to more information on this case because I just don't have enough right now. But I mean, the last thing you suspect was when she was murdered, trying to get to her, see her lawyer right before the trial, that the actual person who killed her was the lawyer. That's one out of, wow, what? So, yeah, it does. It sounds like a TV show plot. You're right. It's like one of those things you go, well, we can't put that in a show because nobody will believe it. Along with the raccoon, raccoon and the meth pipe. Speaking of criminals, I've already done the Hinterkaifeck case. Yes, that's already been done. Yeah. Just put, whenever you wonder if I've done a case, which is a fascinating case, by the way, I really like that case. Just go to the search engine at YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown and put in Hinterkaifeck, and you'll come up with the, let's see if I can do it right. I'm make sure that works. But that's what I always tell people, because nobody uses a search engine to speak of. And that's the best way to do it. Profiler Pat Brown, Hinterkaifeck, okay? And here you have it. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see right here. Oh, it's blurry as heck. No, it's very blurry, but it is here. That's the Hinterkaifeck case. It says here, profiling the Hinterkaifeck murders. So, yeah. So, yes, I've already done that one. And that was one of my favorites to do, by the way. Because it's a very, very unique case. And that's the kind, when people ask me to profile cases, and sometimes I say there's nothing to profile. These two in Tasmania, I got nothing. I mean, it's not that if I were brought in by the families, I brought in by the police, mostly, if I were brought in by the police and I could go through all the records, I could see all the evidence, I could see all the possible suspects, I might have something. I might come up with something, because when I've worked on cases with the police departments before, a lot of times when I always remember this, because this is absolutely true the way I feel about it. It's like, I've got this case and they've invited me in, and I've flown into Texas, or I've flown into wherever I'm flying into Michigan or whatever. And I get to the airport and I rent a car and I'm driving there. Then I get my hotel room, and the next day I'm driving into the sheriff's office, or I'm driving into the police department. And I go into this panic mode because I'm like, this case has been worked by a group of detectives for years and they haven't solved it. Who am I to come in and think I could solve the case or give anything useful? I always get that panic attack because I'm thinking, how am I going to see this differently? And for the most part, when I've gotten in there and spent a week going through all their things, I'm like, okay, I do have something here. Here's what I have. Because then I have the information in front of me, the evidence in front of me. I'm able to go through it all. But a lot of times when you're doing stuff internet-wise, you're getting such limited information that there's no point in me. Again, I'm not a storytelling channel. I could do storytelling. And I can say a little bit about these cases, which I did. But to get into depth, to do a whole 2-hour video, there has to be enough evidence and information to really grab onto it and be able to analyze it. So there are cases which are fascinating to me because I have enough to work with The McCann case clearly had enough to work with. JonBenet Ramsey, clearly enough to work with. Hunter K. clearly enough to work with. There's a bunch of different cases. Otherwise, I wouldn't have shows because I only do shows, 2-hour shows, where I feel like I have enough to talk about and enough to analyze. And just, so, but there's other things I can't do anything with. But always go to the search engine and put in Profiler Pat Brown in any case that you wish. I wonder if I've done it. And many times I've already done it. So, yeah. I say nobody thinks about that because I do have, mind you, I have a case file list. If you go to sorry, hold on a second. If you go to the channel and you have I just put it up right here. Now, if I go to my web page and I go to playlists, I have all these playlists. A Murder of Cleopatra, where I did my 10 shows on Cleopatra, profiling serial killers, profiling safety for women, the news channel, Hangout, my Hangout, it's got 177 listed under my Hangouts. I have profiling history, there's 19 of them in there, and case files, which has 296 cases on it. So if you go to the playlist, yeah, it's a pain in the ass. So you have to go through, like, you can scroll through 296 different videos, and you can maybe find videos you're interested in. So if you're just looking for an interesting case, do that. But if you want a specific case and you don't want to have to scroll that much, you just go to the search engine and put in Profiler Pat Brown and the case name. So, and you'll find it. So the knife gets me. Why have it on a beach if you didn't intend to use it? Well, again, people do have knives for other reasons. I don't know what surfers might use a knife for. They might have reasons. They have to cut rope or something like that. I don't know what they'd use it for. Some people use it for cutting cheese. I had a knife I used to use for cutting cheese. So yeah, you can have a knife. Some people just carry a knife for, they always want to have some kind of knife with them because, for whatever reasons, they might have to use it. Hopefully not for killing people, but no, a lot of people carry knives. And so I don't think that necessarily means that they arrived on the beach with a plan to murder somebody. However, that might be exactly why they had the knife, so it's hard to say. And again, I don't have enough information to determine whether we're looking at somebody who lost their mind while they were on the beach and got angry, or whether we're looking at a serial killer who said, oh, look, here's a girl by herself. And I always carry my knife just in case I'm coming up with a pretty girl that I want to sexually assault. Then you do carry a knife with you, because it comes in handy when you're committing homicide. What's the best way to suggest a case? Oh, that's pretty easy. Generally speaking, just send me an email. And if you're on Patreon, you can just send me a message. Just go to the messages and just send me a message. All the messages if you put anything on a message, it automatically comes into my email. So if you can send me a direct email or just send me a message through Patreon, I'll get it the same way. And so just I always try to tell people, a lot of times what happens is I say, well, I sent you this case and you never did it. And why not? And I'm like, I don't know. It could be, I get inundated sometimes with cases. Sometimes I start looking at cases and I'm like, I know it's not really working for me. And then I forget about it. And I find something else that's more interesting. Sometimes you have to bug me. I've had people send me, they bug me about it. And finally one day they're like, you finally did it. It took me 6 months. I'm like, yeah, well, finally at that moment, I was able to find enough information on the case and it interested me enough to do a full show on it. So every week I do ask for stuff for the Hangout, which is where I do things that I really can't do a full show on, but it's fun to talk about the different cases. But then if I do a full show, it has to be something that intrigues me. And I feel like I can analyze evidence. So it's a little trickier than just telling a story because I have to have something to work with. So, yeah. Oh, here we go. Christoph is a serial killer. I always carry a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, why not? I mean, I've carried knives with me. So, yeah. I always carry snacks. They're less dangerous, except to you. That's good. Oh, you don't even lock the doors. It's just one of those things where it depends on how often things happen, how much the media pushes it so that you know about it. And there's cases where, you know, you can go for decades and then nobody's ever harmed in that town. And suddenly somebody gets brutally murdered as a sexual homicide in your town. Usually means somebody moved there that you wish hadn't moved there, you know, because all it takes is one person that moves there. So, you know, theoretically, you could have a town that is super safe. People are great, the community. And then all of a sudden there's 10 murders in that town because one guy moved in. And it sucks. It really sucks because, you know, what you once had, you don't have anymore. You know, it takes away, you know, that feeling of safety that you used to have. It's a very, quite a shame. So yeah, I don't like it. Oh, thank you. It only took me a day. See, that one worked quickly. I wish I could do more on the 2 cases, but I just don't have enough information. But I really wish they would say that. I don't understand why they ruled the serial killer out, because that does not make sense to me, unless there's something behind the scenes. Here's the only way you can rule a serial killer out is that you actually know what happened to the 2 girls. If your suspect is the guy that she was staying, well, let's say she was staying at the cousin's house or whatever, and they think the cousin killed her. Let's say they thought that. Let's say they had 50% information that they're pretty sure that they got into a fight and he killed her. But they can't prove it, so they're not going to tell the community because they can't prove it. So they're just hoping one day they got enough evidence. Let's say that were the truth. And the other girl, they absolutely knew that for some reason it was a car hit her accidentally. And if they actually knew that, if they knew that these 2 girls couldn't have been killed by a serial killer, that they know what happened to them, but they can't prove it, that's the only time you can say it's not a serial killer. But if they do not know who the suspect is on either one of them, they have no business saying that, except they do it so that they don't get pressure from the media. That's just the way it works. So, all right. Well, that's it for today. I will be back. Now, the case show, last week, of course, I thought it was Mother's Day, so I didn't do a brutal murder. And instead, I did the DB Cooper case, which would turn out to be fun. And really, I'm glad I did it. But now it is going to be Mother's Day on Sunday. So I have not had any word from my children whether they would like to take their mother out for lunch or dinner. So I don't know, maybe a case where they call me up and say Happy Mother's Day and somebody comes by with some flowers and I'm going to be here all day long. I don't know yet. So I haven't decided whether to do a show on Sunday or a show on Saturday or a show on Monday. So all depending on, so just keep aware that I might change up when I'm going to do something, because I really just don't know yet. But, and if I do it on Sunday, I'm not going to do a murdered mother story, because that just seems seriously wrong. Seriously wrong. Oh, thank you. I'm glad. It's a very interesting case. That this was one I was bugged about a lot, and because it wasn't a murder mystery, and I really don't know anything about airplanes, except I prefer not to be on them and coach. I just want to be in first class so badly. It's the only reason I want money in life. Just hate coach. I can't take it anymore. But fascinating case, and so I'm glad I actually eventually looked into it and found it really intriguing. So yeah. You would think that's true. If she was hit by a car, she'd be found somewhere. There's that interesting case in, I have to look at that case. I haven't found out what happened. A woman went jogging. I forgot where it was. And the question was, did she get hit by a car? They arrested a young fellow, a very handsome young fellow, for it too. And I have to look that case up, because I don't know whatever happened, because I found it very strange. And I'll figure that one out, and then I'll come back with that one. But don't do Saturday and partying. Lucky you. I've got no invite at all. So, we'll be drunk. Hey, we allow drunks to come to the show. It's only I who cannot be drunk. Although I've been accused of it before. I was like, why are they accusing me of being drunk? I mean, it's like, no, this is actually just the way I am. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I hope I will see you here on the weekend. And if you haven't seen the video I've done on Madeleine McCann, do check that out. Again, it is this one. It's Yes, that's one. The Son's Madeleine McCann Crockumentary. Check out my book. And if you haven't been to my other channel, I just did this channel, Dear Profiler Pat. I just did I just sent out an email. The show just went out right before this show about what you do about divorce and how you should how adults and children end up handling divorce and what you should do. So that's my Dear Profiler Pat question that I've answered today. And so check it out. And I will see you sometime theoretically, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, depending on the circumstances, which are up in the air at the moment. And I will see you later. Bye.